Hello, That One Show Fun. How's it going? It's me, Austin, the That One Show Fun man, with a little video feature I've been wanting to do for a really long time. Hit it with the theme song, ranking every U.S. president by looks. Now, it's no surprise that all of the U.S. presidents... Sorry, I don't have a mic stand, so I'm holding it. It's no surprise that there have been some lookers and a lot of fucking ghouls. Maybe I should film my face. Hold on. We're going to be using the official presidential portraits for all of these clowns. And we're going to do our best to rank them strictly based on looks and absolutely nothing else. So, are you ready for the competition? First up, we got President George Washington, the OG. Quick list of features. Pretty good tailor. A little bit of jowls. Rosy cheeks, probably because of disease. So George Washington, we're going to put right smack dab in the middle. On a personal scale, I give George Washington a 4 out of 10 on how much I would want to George Washington. Once we get more contemporary, for people who have been dead for less than 50 years or who are alive, I'm going to stop doing the would I like to them rating because I think it's kind of rude. All right, John Adams. This is an easy one. Not as attractive as George Washington. He looks like a bird. Next up, we've got Thomas Jefferson. I gotta say, I think old TJ's a little bit of a looker here. I'm gonna go ahead and say old TJ is number 1 at the moment. Good job, Thomas Jefferson. What a looker. Next up, we've got James Madison. Did you know James Madison died? Wait. No, I mean, he did die, but never mind. I'm going to go ahead and say James Madison, not as sexy as George W., but sexier than John Adams. Next up, James Monroe. Big benefit is that when James Monroe got his presidential portrait done, he did have brown hair. As sexy as Thomas Jefferson? No, TJ's got those sexy eyes like he can take care of you. Slightly sexier than George Washington. James Monroe. Boy, this is going to take a while. Next up, John Quincy. Woof. JQA. John Quincy Adams down at the bottom here. Next up, this is going to be a tough one for me, but I suppose all of them were horrible people, really, in a certain sense. What the fuck is going on in the background of Andrew Jackson's presidential portrait? You got all of them in front of, school picture day. Andrew Jackson. The apocalypse on the plains, which makes sense. I like Andrew Jackson's, vampire coat. I think we're going to put Andrew Jackson one step ahead of John Quincy Adams. Next up, Martin Van Buren. Yikes. Was this the first presidential photograph? The thing must have exploded when I took the picture, huh? Uglier than Andrew Jackson. Yeah, Martin Van Buren's one ugly dude. Right at the bottom. All right, next up, William Henry Harrison. I would say William Henry Harrison slightly sexier than John Quincy Adams and Martin Van Buren. Still definitely really ugly. I need to call in a second opinion on Andrew Jackson here. Jackson portrait. If it's this, I'd move him down based on this. If he looks anything like that, he's one ugly motherfucker. If he looks like this, he gets a little bit of a bonus. Okay, we're putting William Henry Harrison, who died, mind you, in 1 month after his presidency. William Henry Harrison died. We're putting him above John Quincy Adams and below Andrew Jackson. Next up, we got, Tyler. Clint Eastwood looking dude. I bet when he was younger, he was pretty cute. So I'm going to say Tyler is weirdly, this is sort of an upset. We could call this an upset. Tyler's slightly sexier than William Henry Harrison. This list is going to get very tricky very quick. James K. Polk. That's not a bad looking dude. I mean, it is a bad looking dude, but on the order of presidents, that's not the worst looking dude. All right, we're going to put Polk above John Adams, below James Madison. Next up, Zachary Taylor. That is one dour-looking dude. Sexier than Van Buren, uglier than John Quincy Adams. Is that the only president we ever had with a name starts with a Z? Next up, Millard Fillmore. God, not a good-looking... This is a bad bunch that we're going through right now. All right, Zachary Taylor. Zachary Taylor looks more human. This guy looks like a dick, so we're going to put him below... Well, no, we're just based on looks. I can't take personality into account. No, I think I'm still going to go with Zachary Taylor. I think I'd still rather be that D, if you will. Franklin Pierce. Ooh, that's a sexy dude, isn't it? All right, Franklin Pierce versus Thomas Jefferson. These are both very my type. I think I got to give it to Pierce. I think I got to give this one to Franklin Pierce. That's got to be the biggest jump in presidential history. Look at that. That is a hot that's our first hot president. I'm going to make a little upset pick. We're going to put Buchanan one step above George Washington. How dare you? Well, I like tired-looking eyes. That's why I imitate them. Next up, Abraham Lincoln. Now, I got a soft spot for Abe Lincoln. I just said I like tired-looking eyes. And Abe Lincoln's got the tiredest. Abe Lincoln versus George Washington. I think I might take Abe on that one, but better than Buchanan. Lincoln comes in towards the top. Currently sitting at number 4. It's pretty good. Andrew Johnson. Now, that is not a great-looking... Wait. Andrew Johnson. Then we have another Andrew. I'll get to that later. Sexier than John Quincy Adams? Yeah. Ever so slightly. Ulysses S. Grant. That, I tell you what, I'm not a fan of this type of person, but that is not a bad-looking dude. Look at this little eyebrow thing he's doing. That's not a bad-looking dude. Okay. Sexier than Franklin? No. Franklin Pierce, that is. Not Benjamin Franklin. Sexier than Thomas Jefferson? Also no. Sexier than James Monroe? I'm going to go with yes. Ulysses S. Grant. Rutherford B. Hayes. Now, there's a guy at my work. Well, never mind. Rutherford B. Hayes. More or less sexy than George Washington? We'll go with less. Sexier than James Madison? Yeah. Above Madison comes in Rutherford Hayes. Next up, we're about halfway there. James Abram Garfield. If he closed his mouth during the photo, he'd be sexier, but he's not. He doesn't look that different from where America was kind of in a beard renaissance, 1870, late 1800s. Everyone loved a good beard. Slightly less sexy, I'm going to say, than Rutherford Hayes is James Garfield. Now we got Chester Alan Arthur, who is, I'd say, not a bad-looking dude either. Not as sexy as James Monroe. But we're talking like Lincoln Buchanan levels of sexy. Above George Bush, under Buchanan, Chester Alan Arthur. Above George Bush, did I say Bush? Washington. George Washington. Haven't gotten to Bush yet. That doesn't come till 9/11. Next up, Grover Cleveland. John Adams. Sexier than John Adams? We'll say yes. Sexier than Andrew Jackson? Yeah, especially if it's that Uggo version of Andrew Jackson, though. From the Cleveland Show. Benjamin Harrison. It's hard to hold this many men in my head at once. And it is all men. Until 2020. Benjamin Harrison. The longer I look at him, the more deeply I fall in love. You will be put between Polk and Garfield. How about that? Next up, McKinley. Would not like to have a conversation with him. I don't fucking know. We'll put him right below John Quincy Adams. I don't care. Next up. President Roosevelt. I respect Roosevelt because he is not, to me, attractive, but he is slightly different looking. Yeah, we're gonna put this clown between Chester Alan Arthur and Buchanan. President Roosevelt comes in. Oh shit, that was full. Which one is this one? Roosevelt, not FDR. Who's the other one? Next up, Howard Taft. See, not as put together as Roosevelt. That's the thing. Is that he could be as sexy, but he's not as put together. Roosevelt's got a look. He's just kind of incidental. I'm going to put him between William Harrison and President Tyler. Next up, Woodrow Wilson. Piece of shit he was. Looks like fucking Slugworth. Not good luck. This is like, I would say that this is even, I prefer this less than some of like the quote-unquote uglier people on this list. Because I don't like people who look like that. You look too put together, but in an evil way. We're going to put him between Andrew Jackson and John Adams. How about that? Next up, has more of a distinct look than Wilson, but not by much. So Warren G. Harding is going to go between Wilson and John Adams. Then we got Calvin Coolidge, not my type, but not in Uggo, certainly. Again, I really want to stress that this whole endeavor, the idea of judging human look, is problematic and bad. So just keep that in mind while we do this fun exercise here. Calvin Coolidge. Looks like his dad probably owns something really expensive. Not my type, but we're going to go ahead and plop Calvin Coolidge between George Washington and Chester Alan Arthur. Then we got President Hoover, inventor of the vacuum cleaner. We'll put you one step above Andrew Jackson. How about that? Then we got FDR. Now, this is a pretty flattering picture of FDR, really, but he's still an old coot. He's idealistic. He's got a strong face, which I appreciate, and I like the angle that he's looking at. Upset, I'm going to put old FDR a step above George Washington. Truman looks like all of the extras in any movie about when we went to the moon. Not as distinct as George Washington, not as distinct as Hayes. Garfield, maybe. Harrison, Polk. Truman, I could probably fit you in between Andrew Jackson and Hoover. How about that? I can squeeze you in there. You know, for a guy named Truman, he sure lied a lot. Dwight D. Eisenhower. Old Gollum. Better looking than Truman, in my opinion. I know that's a hot take because, like I said, he looks like Gollum. But he's more my type. He looks more honest, and I appreciate people who have an honest look about him. That's why I hate myself. We could we'll squeeze old Eisenhower, let's say, in between Polk and Harrison. I got space for him there. We're getting close. We're getting there. You're getting there. All right, JFK. This is, I don't think, a hot take to say JFK was sexy as again, obviously, in certain ways, in his personal life, may be problematic. Generally, an all-around good guy. This is a great picture of old J-Man. I'm sorry that he died. So who's sexier, Ulysses S. Grant or JFK? I think I like JFK just a little bit better. Okay, so then we talk about Thomas Jefferson. I think I got to put JFK one step below Thomas Jefferson. All right, that was a tough one. Next up. Not as tough. Actually, it is very tough because I don't know if you can tell from the phone recording, but at the bottom of this is a f***ing pigsty. So where do I got space for this goddamn Lyndon? Above Harding? We could probably throw him around the old Tyler Taft area here. Let's do that. Nixon, almost a fucking carbon copy of Lyndon, but I'm going to say slightly more attractive. I am running out of space on this board. I hope these people start to get more attractive and fast. Then we got Gerald, come on. So I think I'm going to have to say between Eisenhower and Polk. Then we got Jimmy Carter, maybe slightly below George Washington. So maybe we could squeeze Jimmy Carter in between like Rutherford B. Hayes and James Madison. I'm okay with that. Ronald Reagan, massive pile, but not the least attractive. He's not the most attractive by any stretch. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. He's sub-Lincoln, but I think probably above Teddy and probably above Buchanan too. In between Teddy Roosevelt and Chester Alan Arthur. Boom. Almost there, you guys. We got like 6 more. Okay. Recently deceased, so we're just going to keep our mouth shut. Sub Andrew Jackson by a little bit. Taft, Tyler, William Harrison. Above John Quincy Adams. In between William Harrison and Mr. Taft. Next up, Bill Clinton. I think Clinton, say what you want about Clinton. Sexy as Teddy Roosevelt, not in that picture. So we're going to go between Teddy and Reagan. We're going to squeeze in Clinton. Then we got George Bush. Once again, say what you want. Call him a war criminal. Got the benefit of having a nice new lighting. But if you kind of think back in your head, we're not talking about exactly any sort of stunner here. As sexy as George Washington, no. Sexier than Rutherford B. Hayes, maybe. We'll put old George Washington in, no, in between Rutherford B. Hayes and George Washington. That means we got 2 more. Everybody knows them. Now, this is a tough one because that is a hot dude. Now, Obama, this one's going to be tricky. This is going to be another one where we're going to have to really duke things out. As sexy as Ulysses S. Grant. I'm not that into beards, but I do have a nice open space right below Ulysses S. Grant. As sexy as JFK. This isn't a great picture of Obama. Sexier than Thomas Jefferson? No, I don't think so. I don't think Obama's quite as sexy as Thomas Jefferson. So we're going to put Obama squeezed in between JFK and Thomas Jefferson. And last, but perhaps not least, Donald Trump. Could we make a joke and say he's the ugliest president? Yes. Is he? Probably not. I'm looking at Bush Sr. I'm going to go ahead and say a sentence that's going to be difficult for me. But I'm going to go ahead and say that Donald Trump is sexier than George Bush Sr. Donald Trump is, I think we're probably talking about like a in-between Andrew Jackson and Harry Truman kind of a spot for Donald Trump. Boom. All right. That's the final U.S. president. Here it is. There's Trump right there. Andrew Jackson. If you just follow the lines, Andrew Jackson and Harry Truman. All U.S. presidents ranked by looks.